Okay, so I'm back here with another revised tutorial. This time it's not revised in the sense that I did this tutorial before, because I didn't do it before. But it's revised in the sense that it covers that Steve Clark lick that I had to correct on my photograph outro tutorial. Because the lick is quite prominent on the outro of this song as well. It's this lick here. And it's such a cool lick that I thought it deserved some more attention. But there's another couple of reasons why I wanted to cover these solos as well, which I'll get to. But if you want to skip ahead to the tutorials, I'll put a timestamp in the description, or I'll put it somewhere on the screen now, so you can do that. But I feel I should explain why I'm going to be showing you a version of the solo that appears on the actual home video DVD release, and I'm going to be showing you a version of the solo that's from a bootleg, which is actually from the same concert. It's just that there's a couple of significant differences in there, and I maybe want to offer my opinion on why I think there are differences. So I'm going to try and do that now as best I can. So many of you may know that the In the Round concert was filmed over 2 nights in Denver, and then they got some extra footage from 3 nights in Atlanta as well. Now, I've never noticed on the concert what the Atlanta footage is, but I do know that on one of the many versions of the Armageddon video, there's a shot of Steve in different clothing, and there's a shot of Sav in different clothing, and I've always assumed that that's Atlanta. And if that is the Atlanta footage, then I guess the stuff they used for the concert was just like extra crowd or audience kind of stuff, or maybe faraway shots of the band and the stage. And many of you may know as well that when you watch the concert, there's many times where like the audio and visual doesn't quite sync up. Now this could be for a number of reasons. It could be like, it's the visual of them playing or singing like one chorus, but the audio is from a different chorus in the song. So it's like both the visual and audio is from the same source. It's just that it's at different points, and you can kind of match it up since it's like, one chorus is similar to another chorus, etc. There's also many occasions where the audio and visual don't match up, and it's like on unique events. It's like, one-off events, like in a solo. And with the concert being filmed over multiple nights, I used to think, well, maybe the visual is from one night and the solo is from another night. But over the years, I've been lucky enough to be given bootlegs of the band, many from the Hysteria tour. And I've noticed that there's certain things that they seem to do in the bootlegs quite consistently, which don't happen on the In the Round concert. So it's kind of made me come to the conclusion, and it's something I already suspected anyway, that some of the concert is being overdubbed afterwards. Now, I feel I should mention that, it's happened in the past when I've talked about stuff like this, not necessarily in videos, but maybe on like other mediums, that people think I'm having a go at the band or like dissing them, or complaining when I talk about this stuff, mention inconsistencies about certain things or whatever. I'm not really. It's just that it interests me and it kind of fascinates me. I want to know everything about like these concerts and stuff. And it's just that some people can take it the wrong way. And I think there's always a big thing about, backing tracks and lip syncing and stuff like that. You see on like Top of the Pops videos, Top of the Pops was a UK show where they'd show like the top 40 singles, and they'd have bands on and they'd like mime their songs. And occasionally on those videos on YouTube, you see people like they're outraged at the like bands and artists lip syncing, when it's like, well, that's the premise of the show, So to me, it's never really been bothersome. And I've always thought that on occasions like this where, let's say there has been an overdub here and there, I imagine there's good reason for it. Maybe certain audio was damaged in the transfer, or, like say, if you've listened to the bootlegs from these Denver shows, you can hear that Joe's maybe not having his best night on a couple of songs. So it's like, oh yeah, you maybe want to fix some things up, get rid of like feedback squeal or whatever. And from reading a lot about other bands as well, it wasn't like it was out the norm to overdub these concerts. Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous is That's a big heated debate on, you know, certain guitars being overdubbed. And I just got finished reading Sammy Hagar's autobiography, which I enjoyed very much. And there's a big revelation on the Live Right Here Right Now concert, which was pretty cool to read. But it doesn't make me not enjoy that show anymore. So when I'm talking about this, and I'm basically getting the conclusion that I think Steve's solos on here are overdubbed. I'm not dismissing the band or Steve for overdubbing them, because like I said, there could be good reason for it. Just that when listening to bootlegs, I've noticed these differences, and this is the conclusion I come to. And all I can do really is give you evidence and show you my reasoning for coming to that conclusion. And, you know, it might not be the case. You might think something different. And I think that's fine. So I felt I should explain that before I delve into the tutorials, because I'm going to be mentioning a couple of things. Let's get on with the tutorials now and show you some cool licks. Okay, so like with the other tutorials, I've got a tab here that I'll link in the description that I'll be referencing. Now on it, I've laid it out like this. The top line is the in the round version, and the second line is the bootleg version. And the bootleg, like I mentioned earlier, is from the soundboard recording of one of the Denver shows. You can find that YouTube video of the song online. In fact, I'll link that in the description as well, so you can listen to that version of the solo and follow along with the tab too. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mainly focus on the in the round version, and where there are differences, I'll point them out on the bootleg one. So I'll take it line by line or bar by bar, whatever kind of suits the licks. And I'll do it at normal pace, maybe a slow pace. And I'll talk about finger positions and techniques and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go for it. So the first line, if we take, let's say 1.5 bars, it should be something like this. So normal pace, 3, 4. So just take that line there, or those licks there. We're starting off with that kind of country bend. So bending the 14th of the G, using my third finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Third finger, bending that up a full step. I'm using my pinky or fourth finger for the 15th of the B. After the second time, I'm introducing some whammy bar vibrato. If you don't have a whammy bar, just wiggle your fingers a little bit. Now for the next part, keeping the same fingerings, but we're kind of breaking it down into single notes. We've got this thing going on. So we're bending up that 14th, and then when we play the 15th, we're kind of muting the 14th, so it's not ringing out, but we're keeping that bend held. We're kind of doing a slow release and doing 14, 12, 14. Again, finishing off with some whammy bar vibrato. Now, any differences on the bootleg? Yes. I noticed that on a lot of the bootleg versions, Steve wouldn't play the 15th of the B string. He'd just play the 14th of the G. So instead of... he would just go... Okay. Now, if we take the end of line 1 going into line 2, let's just focus on this lick, which starts with the 11th fret and ends on that 12th fret of the D. So the lick should be something like this at full speed. Now the way I've tabbed that out, we finish on a slide, but I'm sure at the end Steve actually depresses it with the whammy bar. So fingerings for that, I like to make my home position the 11th fret, so that's where your first finger should lie, and just naturally follow where your finger should go after that. So second finger on the 12th fret, pinky or fourth finger on the 14th, a little hammer on pull off for 11, 12, finishing on the 12th of the D. Okay, and this next lick, full speed, should be something like this. So for this, I I like to use my middle finger because depending on like your action or like the type of strings or string gauge, type of springs I meant to say the first time, it might be hard to kind of bend down here. So I like to use my second finger for this bend, second fret of the G. And similar to like the 14th fret of the G, like the lick right at the start, we're doing like the same kind of thing here. Bent up a full step, hitting that third of the B with, I'm using my pinky there. We're muting the second fret of the G while we hit that third fret of the B, but we're keeping that bend held. And then we're kind of doing a bend release. And then I pull off from that and then end on the second fret of the D. It's pretty much the same on the bootleg version. You may notice that the start of that lick, he just does an extra 11th note at the end of line 1 there, but not too different. So if I play all that together so far, it'll be something like this. Okay, so if we move on and we take the lick starting from the end of line 2, let's see, going into the end of line 3, let's see how far I can play up to that. But we're starting like this, up to speed should be something like... Okay, something like that. I'll try and play it slowed down if I can. So. Something like that. Okay, I might find it hard to like break this down because I feel like this first lick leads into the second lick for me, like rhythmically. So if I can't quite play it properly, that'll be why. Please forgive me. But the first lick, we're back up at that 12th fret. This is our new home position. So your first finger should lie on the 12th fret. We're playing these double stops. So I'm playing the 14th of the D, with my third finger, and I'm barring the 12th fret of the G and B with my first finger. And that's the rhythm of that. Okay, now the quick lick is kind of daunting at first, but there's not too much going on. Like I say, it's kind of hard to break down, but the main tip for this is, now usually I'd want to bend that 14th fret of the G with my third finger, but I found that what was putting me off when I originally did the cover like years ago is that I couldn't quite get to this next part easily. I noticed that Steve would bend it with his middle finger or his second finger, and there's good reason for it because that helps him flow into the next lick a lot easier. It might be hard to explain how that is, but just kind of trust me on it, okay? So we're bending that 14th fret of the G up a full step with the second finger. Then we're going to be hitting the 12th fret of the B with my first finger, and you're going to use your third finger for the 15th fret of the B. Now the rhythm of this lick, it's kind of hard to slow down, but if you can get it into your head and get it into your muscle memory, that you can play something like this. Something like that, a rhythm like that anyway. If you noticed, I was playing and picking that in different ways. I haven't exactly tabbed it out the way that might be comfortable for you. But the way I do it is I'll pick the 14th bend, pick the 12th, pick the 15th, and then pull off back to the 12th. You might find it's easy to hammer on and pull off from 12 to 15 back to 12. You might find it's easier to pick everything. Okay, but as long as you get that rhythm idea into your head. So if you think of it this way, we're doing that type of lick twice, 14th bend, 12, 15, 12. 14th bend, 12, 15, 12. Third time get to that 14th bend, we're starting something different. And this is what was originally throwing me off, because you need to have your third finger free when you play that third 14th bend, because you're playing the 14th bend. So this is the end of bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're playing the 12th fret of the B afterwards, and you need your third finger free to play this 15th of the B. Now it seems easy enough slowed down, right? But up to speed, you need your, like, to try and, I think it's something to do with you have to bend it straight away, and I just couldn't do it. And I think it's easier if you do it the way I'm saying here. Bend the 14th with your middle finger, so you have your third finger free for that 15th of the B. Jeez, what a mouthful. If we take just that last bar on its own, they're all triplets, like 8th note triplets. And it's kind of hard to get that across when you don't have a tempo, but you're just playing something like, okay, I like to upstroke that. I don't know why. I feel it just kind of gets the right feel across. And I mentioned this before in other videos talking about Steve. That little 14th note there, the half bend, that tonal note choice, and then pairing it with the 13th at the end, like just adding texture and color, or color I should just say, not really texture. That I feel gives the solo a lot of like atmosphere. So I point out that Steve's use of like those two notes there are the ones that I like the most. Okay, right. Should I play everything up till there? Yes, right. Moderate pace, everything up to there, something like this. Okay, so let's move on to the next line. This is basically just to finish it off. So when we get to that 13th at the end of that last bar, we're going to play it again. I'll play that last bar just to get me into this last bit, because I can't quite do the timing on my own here. And then I'm going to go back and mention the differences on the bootleg version of that as well. But just to end it off, we're doing something like this. Okay, I'll do it a bit slower. So when we kind of sustain that 13th of the B, I'm using my middle finger for that. Then I use my third finger for this 15th bend of the B, full and release, middle finger for that 14th of the G. Go back to that original fingering that we did at the very start, the third finger, the pinky, for the country bend. Then full bend, release. I'll do a pull off from that 14 to 12. And you can just kind of end like this. That's what that X means, just like a non-significant note ending out. So the main bootleg difference comes on that kind of triplet bar. You know, where we're originally doing this, I noticed that more often than not on the bootlegs, he wouldn't like do that basically. More often than not, he'd find a note within that bit and just kind of stay on it. So something like this. The way he does it on the bootleg for this show was this. So he kind of finds that 14th of the G early and stays on it, and you know, that gives it a different feel rather than ending on that 13th of the B. So that's the main difference of the bootleg there. So let's move on to the outro. Okay, so the outro starts with the infamous Steve Clark lick that I love so much but could never get right until very recently, and it goes something like this. Slow down. Here we go. So the way you want to do that is, you wouldn't normally want to bend with your first finger, but it makes sense in the context of this lick. So bend that 14th of the G up a full step. Then while we're doing that, we're hitting the 17th of the B with our pinky. We're just going to follow the sequence down. 14 to 12 slide, 15th with your pinky on the B. And then same thing again, 12, 11. Hit the 12th of the B, go 11, 9. This is where the sequence breaks and you hit the 12th of the B again. 9 to 7 slide. Unwanted pinch harmonic there. And then you hit the 10th of the B. 7 to 4. Hit the 7th of the B. You kind of end it like that. Then we kind of got a similar idea with the double stops leading into that kind of quick lick. So let me just play it all up to speed and see how far I can get with that. So something like that. So we've kind of seen this before, really. Slightly different in the way he ends it on that kind of triplet feel. So I feel I don't really need to delve into that again. So there's a couple of differences on the bootleg version on that part, mainly on that kind of quick lick there. He plays it 3 times. It's a slightly different rhythm. I can't quite go between the two right now because it's throwing me off either one. So like I said, I'll put the link in the description for the audio of the bootleg version, and you can be able to hear that and follow along with the tab. If we just stick with the in the round one then now, we move on to the shreddy part. Now this was the main thing which led me on my like rabbit hole trail of like listening to bootlegs, because I could not hear what he was playing like properly, you know. And this is where I found out that what he plays on the in the round version is just, it seems to be the exception to what he'd play on all the other bootlegs. So I'll try and show you what I think I hear on the in the round version. But to be honest, the way I've tabbed this here is not exactly what I played on the cover I just did. I found, you know, because the way I think about these things is, you know, you're never going to play it exactly the way it was played. But as long as you hit certain bullet points, you can kind of hit the mark, get it sounding close, but keep it in your own feel. So kind of up to speed is something like this. I'm playing something like that. It's kind of around a E minor pentatonic pattern. If I was just to slow down the shape, I'm kind of doing So that kind of idea. So kind of going between the B string and the G string a couple of times, then going up to the E string, and then coming back down. And whereas on the tab, I'm not hitting that 12th fret of the G on the tab. But I found that I had to do that when playing the cover, just to kind of get my fingers in sync. So take that line with a pinch of salt. Just go for the benchmark notes, you know, the fact that it kind of hangs around that B string mostly. It wavers up to the E string momentarily, comes back down. Then we're ending on those kind of country bends we've seen before. You know. And that's the kind of ending there. Now, the bootleg version, I'm going to give a little bit more attention to detail, because I feel this is what Steve would do most of the time, so therefore this is what we should try and strive to achieve here. So coming out of that fast lick beforehand, where he's doing the he hangs on that 14th fret, and then the shreddy part he does here is something like this, I feel. So you want to have this kind of idea. You want a pentatonic shape that descends down, and you want to end on that 12th fret of the low E. And the way to do that, this is similar to like a phrase that I think he does on the Die Hard the Hunter. So if you can find a pattern which suits you, where you start off with that bend, and then I'm going up to the 12th fret of the E, which I haven't tabbed, but I find that's comfortable for me. So what I actually tabbed there. So that's what the tab's doing, something like that. It wasn't quite like that, but it's that kind of idea. So you do that, you do a descending run like that over the pentatonic shape. Then you come back down to the 2nd fret of the G and do this little pinch harmonic thing. Something like that. You can hear it, and this is what he seems to do on all the bootlegs, but he doesn't seem to do it on the in the round version. So if you want to play it more like Steve, I think it's more like that. So let me try and play it all together with the ending that Steve would do. So something like that, I think, is what normally Steve would do, but it varied here and there, you know. It seemed to be on this solo. It became like a feel thing where he wouldn't necessarily do the same thing all the time, but he'd do the same idea. So there might be instances where he hangs on certain phrases more so than others, but he compensates that by like shortening other phrases. The same kind of idea always applied, you know. He was always doing a kind of quick descending lick there, going down into that pinch harmonic thing on the 2nd fret, and he seemed to end it quite similarly. So, I hope this has been helpful if you ever wanted to try and learn this solo. It's a bit tricky, and like I say, when I came to do the covers again, I do some of my own stuff in there because I found it hard to pinpoint exactly what Steve was doing. But have a go, play it your own way, put your own kind of spin on it, have fun with it, and I hope you enjoy it.